A team of Singapore researchers is right now in freezing Antarctica, braving the cold on a mission to fight climate change. Melting ice caps are leaving low-lying islands such as Singapore vulnerable to sea levels that could rise up to a metre by 2100.
Well, the expedition comprises people from the Earth Observatory of Singapore and the Asian School of the Environment. Professor Benjamin Horton joins us live now from Antarctica. He is on that mission with that group. Prof. Horton, first off, let us know where you are and what you're up to.
Good evening, everyone in Singapore. We're in the West Antarctic ice sheet. Behind me, you can see some of the ice that is rapidly melting and going into the oceans and causing rises of global sea level and impacting people here in Singapore.
Oh, Professor, there are other expeditions headed to the Antarctic to look at, for example, developing climate models to predict what might happen in the future, for example, if ice caps should melt. So what is different about your particular research team on this expedition?
Well, we've got a group of scientists from Singapore and the United States, and we're trying to look at how the atmosphere is changing, how the oceans are changing, and how our ice sheets are changing. So we're trying to couple together the atmosphere, the ocean, and the ice sheets. We've also got a social media team. The aim here is to try and link the climate science to stakeholders in Singapore and beyond, so we can bring home the importance of trying to save this very, very fragile environment.
Prof. Horton, tell us a little bit about the process of doing that, because we know you're sampling air, water and ice while you're there. You're also working with a team of other scientists as well. So tell us something about that process.
Well, climate change is a global problem, so not one single country can answer it. So we try and build up collaborations from countries in and around the Arctic Circle, countries that regularly visit Antarctica, so we can try and understand these processes, because changes in Antarctica will have impacts on every single person in Singapore, Southeast Asia, and globally, because behind me is the West Antarctic ice sheet. The West Antarctic ice sheet has enough water within it to raise global sea levels by 3 meters. And that would obviously have significant implications in Singapore, where a third of the island is only about 1 meter above the highest tides.
Well, you've actually answered the question I was going to put to you, the impact of that on Singapore. I'll follow up and ask you, well, what is the likelihood of that ice sheet melting and thus putting us in jeopardy, as you suggested?
Well, it depends upon whether we keep on increasing our global temperatures. Scientists have identified a tipping point for this ice sheet behind me, and that's if temperatures get above 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels. We're already at 1 degree C. So we need to, as a country, as a region and globally, reduce our carbon dioxide emissions so we don't step beyond that 2 degree C threshold. If you do that, the processes that can cause the collapse of the ice sheet you see behind me become more likely. The timescale for that is uncertain, but if we go beyond that 2 degree C threshold, it's likely to be some point towards the end of this century or the beginning of next century. And the sort of sea level rises that we would see if West Antarctic started to collapse, input from the East Antarctic ice sheet and Greenland would cause sea level rise in excess of 5 meters by the middle of next century.
Those are alarming statistics, Prof. Horton, and alarming possibilities as well. I mean, you're doing scientific work, important work there. There's also been a rise, though, in so-called winter tourism or iceberg tourism alongside the fact of climate change. What are your thoughts about that in terms of how much impact there is as more people go to the Antarctic to see these melting ice shelves?
Well, it is a very unique environment. I mean, I've been here for a couple of days now, and You see incredible marine biology, staggering geology, changing ice sheets. So there is obviously an interest from the tourism community, but from my knowledge, the tourism community acts sustainably. They're very, very careful to make sure that everything that is brought into the ice sheet is removed from the ice sheet. It's also an educational exercise. We are working with Quark, and every evening they have educational lectures about the marine biology, discussing how fragile this environment is. And later this evening, I'm going to be giving a talk to the people who've come on this ship. So it's all about education. Education is power. Once you have that knowledge that this is a changing environment, then you will do something about it.
Right. Is that what you hope to be doing with your team next? Education is power, making sure people are educated in the best way possible.
Well, I think anybody who works in an academic environment, it's always about education to stakeholders. Climate change is such an important topic. It's going to influence every single person on the planet. So if we can educate them about the problems, we can discuss what the impacts are, or importantly, what the solutions are, both individually, collectively, within businesses and within governments. If we all work together, we can solve this problem. We can save this environment behind me, and we can stop the ice melting into the sea and causing a rise in sea level.
Thanks so much, Professor Benjamin Horton, Director of the Earth Observatory of Singapore at NTU. Thanks so much for joining us.